Anyway.
Da-da-dun, da-da-dun.
Guess that's about it, guys, or what?
No, that's
Is
another
Riley
show.
coming back or what? And what about Jose?
I hope he comes
He's on
along.
the road, right?
Oh wait, he just commented in the Master B chat. He says, I don't know, maybe. His wife is dragging him along.
He was supposed to be going from Florida to Texas.
He says, in a few minutes, maybe. Right. But why did Riley leave? That's just... Is it because of Pete?
Yeah, he can't handle me.
It's just ridiculous. Come on, Riley.
That was a little strange. He just kind of evaporated.
I don't blame him. I mean,
Got some
rather than
criticism, that's all.
if he doesn't want to be in someone's presence, he removes himself. Wouldn't you say that's the best thing to do?
I suppose one way to approach it.
Yeah, just walk away. He doesn't want to be around P. Mars because he can't stand him. Go away. And that's exactly what he did. My hat is off to Anthony for doing exactly that.
Mm.
Has anybody heard of the Southern Israelite?
I
The
have.
Southern Israelite?
Yep.
What was it? What?
Yeah, I cannot stand him.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody's just watched the last debate he done with Red
Reds.
Reddick. Yeah, Reds absolutely hammered him.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, he talks a big game. He's such a big
Yeah.
talker, and he drives me absolutely. I don't like a lot of his personal
Word.
positions, but I checked him out because I was interested just to see what he had, but he just totally turned me off.
I was the same.
Who are you talking about?
Oh, he's
His
been
name-
he's been in the panel before. I recall.
I don't know. I've never seen him on this show. His
No,
name
I'm
is
pretty sure he has. I recognize this rebel flag and his crest.
That's
Okay.
it. Yeah, that's him.
Yeah.
Southern Israelite. Southern Israelite. He's got a pretty whacked out view of Christianity, but whatever.
Yeah. No, he's been in here before, and I entertained him for a while in the late.
Okay.
Yeah, he
You know what's funny?
criticised-
If you took a Christian from 150 years ago and showed them what Christianity was like today, they would not even recognize it. It's changed so much.
Well, sure. Just think of all the media. The music would be totally different.
Hasn't he got hasn't he released 2 or 3 flat earth books?
Yeah, he said he's published quite a few books, but I haven't looked him up.
Debate's about to start in a minute.
Yeah, 1 minute.
Hey, if anybody wants to, I came across a good video called "I Just Sued the School System." It's a satire, but it's I'm very focused on the education system. I've been saying here before we need to start. I think it's a good thing for Flat Earth to start sort of holding their feet to the fire.
Hey, I'm all up for it.
I mean, we're never going to get anything out of NASA. Never, ever, ever. But this, you know, we have, I don't know if you guys have them in the UK, but we have school board meetings, you know. With,
NASA may switch its stance.
yeah, I mean,
If you
I
think
don't know.
all of these guys are really stupid, you're wrong.
No, but we don't have access. We're not going to go to Dallas or down to Cape Canaveral. I mean, we have local school boards.
They
I don't know
might
what you have.
prepare for that. They might actually be planning to get flat earthers inside just to counter or dispel the whole thing again.
You mean into NASA?
Yeah, they could. If I were them, I could. It's all a matter of direction and policy.
Yeah, but Arwen, what I'm trying to say is, if you have them there in Holland, or I don't know if you have them in the UK, here in the US, and I assume Canada, we have local school boards, you know, where you can go to a town meeting and they have, you know, the president of the board, and we can start asking for evidence of what they're teaching children and call out the fraud. I mean, we're not, I mean, how many of us are going to go drive down to Cape Canaveral and get access to NASA offices or meetings? None of us.
Oh, maybe eventually we will.
No, seriously?
It would be in their interest to do that, but they need to be properly prepared for it.
Yeah, and the only flat earthers they're going to let in there are ones that are some sort of gate.
No, I disagree. They just need enough of counter people that are really well, that have studied the debates, for example, and just know what we do, what we know, and then have a reasonable, somewhat reasonable at least, answer for things. And the best that they can get out of it is a neutral position. And I think they want to do that, but it takes a lot of time. It's much harder to...
Can I show you an example?
To prepare a lie, a widespread, well-known lie, than it is to figure out the truth. So they need time.
I get it. Can I screen share right now? I just want to show you a kind of a video relating to. It's not about flat Earth, but it gives you a context of what I'm talking about. We can do.
Sure, go ahead.
I won't do the whole thing. It's just let's see, where is it? So this is a local school board, right? You seeing my public speakers?
Yeah.
So just give me a sec. I won't do the whole. It's 5 minutes, but I got to unmute. Sorry.
Good afternoon to the school board and Mr. Runcie.
So this is just a
I'm going to start
parent,
by asking you to
community
please
member.
resign. I'm going to outline here today why you're such a liar, sir. The board may praise you for your visionary leadership. Patricia Good, I believe that was your comment in the papers. Yeah. Then, sir, because you were then corrected by the community to cover and protect you.
Anyway,
This
I
is
think
not
you get
really
the point.
right.
Well, it is, because what I'm saying is this is something. Whose dog is what is that noise?
That's a feedback loop from you.
Yeah, whoever's not muted, just if you're not talking, just stay on mute.
Let's see. Let me stop screen sharing too. So anyway, my point is that's not me. That was okay. That's better. Yeah,
It was Neil.
Okay. My point is that these school boards are local. We can access them. a lot easier than federal government agencies.
Well, you have to have children, so.
Well, some of us do here. I believe I do. Last time I checked, Nathan. Nathan, do you have these sort of things in the UK?
Possibly.
School boards?
Yeah. But somebody's causing a feedback loop again.
I'm pretty sure it's the same education system in the West everywhere. It's based on.
Not
do
really.
Do you have elected school board like presidents and secretaries? Do you have that system in the UK?
It depends per school.
There's a woman who was a part of the Department of Education under the Reagan administration named Charlotte Iserbyt, and she wrote a book called The Deliberate Dumbing Down of America.
Yep.
And she totally exposed the education system for what it was.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you're new to this channel, or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, and there's also a PayPal link in the info box below the video once it's rendered. But most importantly, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by The Plain Truth, Ranty Flat Earth, P. Mars, who's that? Is it Neil?
Hiya.
Earth Flattener, Eric, another Earth something or other, and Darwin. Good to have you all.
Good afternoon.
Cheers.
Research Building 7.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
Oi, oi.
Got a full panel. Let's do housekeeping. Any signs of curvature, gentlemen?
God damn it. Should I just fucking put him on flash?
Nope.
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 Fuck!
No need. No need. No
Mute
signs.
yourself, Pete.
Any
Thought I
signs
was,
of
sorry.
axial rotation, specifically of the Earth-based variety?
He was pretty upset about that.
Someone's vacuuming now. Okay.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Sign of a vacuum.
Yeah, that's the only thing of a vacuum he is.
Yeah. So is that a no? Any signs of axial rotation?
Not of the Earth-based variety.
Are we talking about that? Shh. The mic.
This show's going downhill.
Yeah.
Let's just move on.
That's like the third time. Who's this guy? Neil, please keep yourself on mute, my friend. Any evidence of the scientific variety for gravity?
Nope.
Just one no? Nearly a full panel?
No.
No.
Any evidence of a
No.
self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Well, maybe at a presupposed spherical Earth, but not in the real Earth.
No? What about the presupposition itself then, in that case, Arwin? Any evidence of R? Earth radius, gentlemen.
Nope. Not
I
what-
think the
not
cats
at all.
have it.
Okay. What about evidence of distance to the sun? Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
There is no distance to the sun.
No? Anybody? Anybody?
Nope.
Crickets.
Nothing. Nope.
Nada.
What about evidence for a pressurized system without a container?
Nope.
Nada. No.
The ocean.
Say that again?
The ocean is a pressurized system without a container.
Oh, that's sneaky. Yeah.
I see. Fair
What's
enough. No, fair enough. I should be more
No.
specific. You're right,
No.
P. Gas pressure without a container.
Well, definitely not.
Any signs of M. Scott Veitch?
Rumors.
Rumor has it.
No, I think that's it then. That concludes our housekeeping. Thank you very much for your patience. The Earth is flat.
The Earth is flat.
It seems to be.
Sure it
All
does.
indications.
Oh, mostly observations. All senses basically indicate that the Earth is flat.
And motion.
That's about it.
Yep.
Sensors, scans, lasers,
Seems logical as well, does it not?
infrared, all these senses give us the indication that the Earth is flat.
I think it's just an
Our
emotional
senses
belief.
is all we get to go by. And our imagination, of course. But yeah, that's...
I don't. You can't just trust your senses, though. Empiricism isn't like the end-all, be-all of truth.
That's the mind of
A
God.
meter is measuring, I guess. If we're gonna keep talking like that.
It kind of is until you prove the contrary.
Don't trust. Doesn't trusting our senses keep us alive 24/7? Basically, when we're not laying in bed and asleep. I mean,
Yeah, but
driving.
survival does not equate insight.
If you trust your senses, then you'd think a magician can pull a rabbit out of a hat.
Right.
I trust me senses every time.
Well, that's where you fail.
No, Pete. That is intentional deception. That is sleight of hand. That's not natural phenomenon that has a natural explanation where we have to process information. That's not the same.
Yeah, it is
not
exactly the same. The point.
No,
I was
it's
making-
not exactly the same.
It is,
You're
it
talking
is.
about a shell game where someone is
You're an idiot.
intentionally.
No.
You
You're
were
clearly
talking
an
about.
No, stop it, Pete.
Well, he's an idiot.
No, he's not.
He tries to sound smart all the time. He's a pretentious moron.
What? Stop it. Don't get in one of your little moods, please.
Why do you try to sound the way you try to sound?
Look,
like
man.
in the center of every point.
The point I was making was your senses can be fooled, and you can't just rely on.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
Yeah,
but that's not
we
the end all
understand-
be all of that situation. There's more.
We
variables
understand
than
what your point. We understand what your point is, Pete. But it is apples to oranges because a magician and a shell game artist intentionally manipulate to trick your eyes. That's not what our world does.
right.
Well, trick your mind
Dude.
mostly, using your eyes.
You talk about mirages and refraction all the time.
That is a natural phenomenon. That
yeah,
is
and it
easily,
tricks your eyes. So what is your point? Like, I'm not comparing
Will
apples.
you?
It only tricks your eye until you understand what you're looking at. Like when you listen to French, it tricks your ears until you understand what you're hearing.
Well,
Again,
best you can get out of that,
No one
Pete,
is creating a constructive argument against what I'm saying.
But
so
it's a
thank you.
natural part of the world.
Are you actually
Unless
suggesting that we
unless you
should not?
suggest the creator himself is trying to fool us, then yeah, you may be right. But there's nobody actively doing something, changing something to cause that. It's natural.
Yeah, if we can't trust our senses, then there'd be no reason to go outside into the world of motion with traffic and whatnot. So, I mean, come on, this is ludicrous argument.
How is it? What are you talking about, dude? What about a
use our
baseball?
senses to survive? Come on, it's not all a trick.
Yeah,
It's not all esoteric.
Survival and insight is a
So what?
completely different thing, though.
I mean, so what? We have senses
So,
for
look,
very damn
My
good
argument is your senses can be fooled. So
reason.
you
Yeah, nobody's arguing against that.
rely
but
on
the
your
general rule is
senses to discern truth because they're not entirely accurate.
No, but they're not there to discern what is true. There is there to gather information that is useful.
for a very good reason. That's what we have senses for. Jeez.
Exactly. Insight is something that we, with our consciousness, try to gather. It's a different spectrum. It's a different field. Like, not all animals occupy themselves with thinking and with insight. They use trial and error tricks, basically, and see what works. They can come up to that, but to truly understand things, that is even hard to prove without communication.
Case closed. Is that we in agreement here or what?
I don't know.
I think this is directed
Sorry, PMARS is correct. Your eyes can deceive you. That's why they've been able to deceive humanity with curvature, because that's the effect that gives the apparent curve. It is just atmospheric conditions. It's when you get really clear weather that you actually see just how flat things are. It's funny how they co-opt that and say that the conditions for very nice visibility are the conditions that are right for refraction, which is absolute nonsense. It's the reverse. So well done, PMARS. You're catching on, mate.
But it's still different, because the idea of the globe was a human suggestion to the public. It is not something that would probably naturally arise were you not confronted with the concept. So it is kind of a trick. It's a mind control trick. It's an idea, a suggestion that catches on. It is designed to catch on and to trick your senses into bending what you perceive to fit that idea, that concept. It's a mind trick.
So you think
Spell.
no one was able to perceive a globe? They were just told it was a globe, and originally someone created the globe lie, and it's just been lying to people?
Absolutely.
They saw curvature with the optical curvature. That's what they saw. And I see it quite often. I'll go down to the beach and I will see that when the conditions are in that right area, you get refraction, you get the curving of the mountain doubling back on itself. And people have always said, every time I produce evidence like this, they've said that's the curvature of the Earth. Well, it's just a mess. It's a curved mess at the horizon. It's all smudged and you can't discern what anything is. And they say that is the curvature of the Earth. And yet, when I go and I film it on like the video I showed before, where the conditions are perfect, it's literally, you can see right down to the bottom of the mountain, you can see all the buildings. That in their model, in their mind, is being loomed up. It's not really there. I mean, it's the complete opposite. It really is.
But there's like an entire profession called geodetic surveying, and they measure the curve all the time.
No, they don't. That's not even what they spend their time on.
Well, you can measure it with a theodolite.
No, you can't. You'll get straight lines. You'll get straight lines.
What? Somebody was saying something.
If you measure land, you're going to get straight lines. You're not going to get curve. Theodolites or not, geodetic surveying or not, it's just straight. It's just straight geometry.
It is.
Just out of interest, P, how many meters do you think they use a theodolite over when they're building things? Professional surveyors that are actually building things, that is.
I mean, I have no idea.
I just know about 50 meters, P.
Experiment.
It's about 50 meters. P.
Do you understand the point he's making, Pete?
No, I don't.
I can't even be asked. Maybe you can, Travis.
No, I don't want. I'm with Anthony.
All they're doing when they're using that equipment over massive distances is looking at perspective. That's all it does. And they've got a strong enough zoom on their lenses to overcome what they call in the textbooks overcoming refraction. In reality, overcoming the limitations of angular size but they do it in a very limited distance, Pete. 50 meters maximum.
Okay.
Yeah, so half the length. You're familiar with a 100-meter running track? Half that distance, that's how much they'd be doing if they were measuring it out with surveying equipment of theodolites to build things that might actually fall down and kill people, things that are important. Jesse, on the other hand, geodetic surveyor, is guilty of the same thing the curve calcs is, ignoring perspective.
I don't think they do, though.
Oh, really? Well, go and find me where they include it. Same challenge applies to anybody who thinks the curve calcs includes perspective. No worries, just show me. Do a wiggles, bring up your maths, and when we go, where's it including perspective? Off the screen, immediately.
Does it even work with angular sizes? The
What?
geodetic surveying, does that even work with that, or just distances and heights?
Geodetic surveying, like I say, all they're doing when I don't know about geodetic surveys in general, but certainly Jesse is just looking at the effects of perspective and calling it curvature. Oh, look, it drops into the distance. Yeah, that's what happens. Things get smaller into the distance, therefore they're going to lower because they're smaller. It's going to appear to be smaller because of perspective, angular size reduction at distance. Whereas he looks across the way from a considerable height, I might add, not from the beach, from 300 feet plus up in the air with his theodolite, and then looks over a distance far in excess of what the manufacturer would recommend that tool be used for. Far, far, far in excess of that. But then he claims it's curvature. No, it's just perspective.
Okay, but what I was basically focusing on is, do geodetic surveyors even apply observation to their field, or are they just using tools and registers to measure, and yeah, that's it. They measure the land, they measure the height, they measure the lengths, all that, and they don't actually do anything relating to observations and angular sizes and all that. So it's completely irrelevant. It's not relevant to their field, and thus they could, if they believe it, argue for the globe, because it's just not relevant to their field. Because they don't have to understand perspective for their field. Could that be a thing?
Could be.
Because when I think about what they do, it is really just measuring heights and distances, and they don't use their observation for it. They use tools, they use the lasers, and they use all these things. And so, yeah, it's just not relevant for them to even know it. They just have to use the mechanisms and measure the distances, and that's it. That's what I think about it.
It seems to me that all the evidence supports the sphere Earth, and the flat earthers just have rhetoric.
No, that's nonsense. Since when are you switching again? What's wrong with you?
Depends on the panel. If there's more globe earthers here, I'd probably be a flat earther.
Right. So you're just being oppositional defiant.
I think it's more interesting if either like at least one person doesn't agree with the rest of the panel.
Right. Well, I don't think there's a lot of evidence for the globe out there. I think there's a lot of forgeries, a lot of CGI, a lot of made up very debunkable stuff out there. Use huge quantities of it. That's not really evidence. It's very, very weak evidence, a lot of it.
Before I did research and I thought the Earth was flat, my main argument was that we live in a scientific dictatorship, so even though all the evidence supports the globe, that's what you would expect because we're being lied to by science. Like, that's the only way I could argue flat Earth, because there was no one ever gave me a good argument that I could, bring to people.
What are you talking about?
Flat Earthers don't have any good arguments to convince people that the Earth
Why
is
the
flat.
government is lying to them?
Train tracks.
That's ridiculous. There's a lot of good reasons why the government is lying to them.
Well, no, I'm not saying I agree with you there. I'm saying
planes fly straight and level. How are you going to explain that?
They have entire this.
Hold on, Owen. Hold on. Sorry, Owen.
Just
1 second, Owen. I didn't hear what Nummy said. What did you say, Nummy?
That planes fly straight and level. How are you going to explain that? Argument.
They stay
Gravity
at the same
does
altitude.
Let's not go into.
They stay at the same
I like
altitude.
where this was going. So.
Well, he said that no, but that flat earthers have never presented any good arguments to make him believe that the Earth was flat. But I'm saying there's tons of good arguments. No shortage of arguments. But you prefer these arguments that deal purely within the sort of psychology of conspiracy, right? Like you're only going to be convinced by weighing it on the scales of, you know, what your impression of what the elite are trying to do to our minds or something, right? You're not really concerned with actual evidence.
I mean, I'm not concerned with evidence because nobody cares about evidence.
It's flat, right? If Manly P. Hall says it's flat, it's flat.
Your attempts at psychoanalyzing me are quite weak.
I'm not trying to psychoanalyze you. I'm just trying to figure you out.
Yeah, that's psychoanalysis.
No, no, that isn't psychoanalysis.
Yeah, figuring someone out, that is what that
Okay,
is.
Okay,
there's nothing wrong with it. Just admit that you did it. I don't find any problem with it.
I'm not doing it. I just said so. I asked him a question. Me asking a single question on topic in a topical room about a specific thing, not psychoanalysis. That's ridiculous. Arwen, you're just totally out to lunch as usual.
No.
Yes, you are. I'm not psychoanalyzing anybody. That's ridiculous.
You're a crazy nihilist.
You were sizing him up. You were figuring him out. What do you think that is?
Sizing him up, figuring him out.
Yeah.
Psychoanalysis is like a very specific Freudian method of clinical psychological.
Well, I'm not doing that.
Okay, I'm not doing any of that. I'm not doing none of that.
Call it what we
I know. I was using it in a wider term.
Yeah, but it doesn't have a wider term, so forget it. It means something specific. No, it doesn't. It's a school of thought that was based on Freud's psychology. That's what it means. That's the only thing it means. Would you say I was performing?
You don't think that people have a psyche?
No, I'm performing. I don't care about this. I'm not psychoanalyzing.
Analyzing. It's literally analyzing somebody's psyche.
No, that's not what it means.
Right, I've got the definition up, so I'm just going to read the definition. Psychoanalysis is a set of theories and therapeutic techniques related to the study of the unconscious mind, which together form a method of treatment for mental health disorders. The discipline was established in the early 1890s by Austrian neurologist Sigmund Freud and stemmed partly from the clinical work of Joseph Breuer and others. Freud first used the term psychoanalysis in 1896.
But words have multiple definitions, and it's also used to another definition is a body of empirical findings and set of theories on human motivation, behavior, and personality development that developed especially for the aid of psychoanalysis. Well, I mean, people use the word to describe basically what Nomi just did to me. But.
Yeah, well, fish hat, mud pie, Mona Lisa. Who cares? I'm not, like,
I take offense to that. That was rude.
Of me?
I'm just kidding. I was reading between the lines as to what you meant.
Okay.
Anyways. Still nitpicking.
No, I'm just interested, P. Mars. So you don't... Are you actually interested in the shape of the Earth? Like, really?
No.
Or you not care? No, you don't care. So there's no... You just go with the globe because you think... I don't know. Do you think there's any good evidence to support the globe?
Yes. I don't think there's been one flat Earth argument I thought was good.
What about planes flying straight and level?
Not a good argument.
The vacuum not being possible without a container.
No. I brought up something, okay? So what is not good about that argument in your mind?
Because if a plane on a ball stays at the same altitude all the way around the ball, it will fly straight and level towards the center of mass.
Like what mechanism?
It will fly off in a tangent off the ball. And the thing is that in order to stay level, you'd have to be pointing down for the future of the flight, right? Like the horizon that is in the distance when you're at 40,000 feet is.
Wait, let him explain how. I want to hear how. He's just made the statement that. So, how would they do that?
It's gravity. It's gravity.
Stay at the same altitude. The same altitude is the same all the way around the ball.
It's the same answer for how the water is able to be drawn toward the center of the Earth and remain level. It's the same answer.
No, it's not even. It's really not, because the plane would fly off at a tangent. The plane is neutralizing gravity through lift. So
Nami, I agree with you. I agree with you. But what I'm saying it's at its base, okay? At its base, because if we talk about the oceans being level, if you follow that tangent, it's not going to curve. So you're saying the same thing in terms of an elevation of 40,000 feet. If you maintain the tangent you're on, you're not going to curve. But the way that the oceans curve and remain level is the whole system that they construct. So it doesn't matter that you extrapolate it out 40,000 feet. It's the same model, regardless of whether or not it's water or atmosphere.
Yeah, it's just like driving your car, right?
No, but it's a different problem with the plane, though.
You don't point your car down, do you, when you drive across the country? At least I hope you don't. I think you're doing something wrong if that's what you're doing.
Because you're on a level.
Sorry, just before you all talk over each other, just bear with me. So I just want to summarise what Nami is saying. He's saying that unlike the water, which also has a gravity argument attached to it, not that there's any scientific validity to gravity, but there's the similar argument is plain truth's point. So on water, they say it's curving around because of gravity. With a plane, it's different. It's maintaining level flight as the ball falls away underneath it. That's his point. So it's a totally different problem in that regard. If the plane is flying level and the Earth is a sphere, then as the Earth falls away from the plane, which is flying level, technically speaking, even though it's level, it's actually flying off into space.
Yeah, and in order to maintain level, it would always have to be pointing down so that when it arrives at the next level, it's already facing the right direction to make it level.
They just have to stay at the same altitude. They don't have to.
Okay, so here, yeah.
You don't understand. Wait. P-Mars, this is the problem. You just haven't bothered to even think about this for 5 minutes. And that's why you don't understand it, and that's why you still think you want to.
I understand. You think
how would you even know if it was
out into space because it doesn't point
constantly? How would you even know?
Pete, first of all, how does an aircraft get into the air in the first place? What does it do?
It creates lift. By
Where's its nose? Where's its nose going?
What? It goes up.
Okay, so to lift off, it has to create lift and point the nose upwards, right?
Right.
So there's nose pointing going on at some stage in flight, right?
Right.
Okay, so then what does it do? It gets to cruising altitude, right?
And then it levels off and it just flies straight.
So if it has to point its nose up to get up from the ball, to keep in accordance with the ball, it would have to at some point start tipping downwards.
No, it wouldn't.
Okay.
But the ball's falling away underneath it, P.
Well, why does it have to tip its nose down? I don't.
To keep up with the ball that's falling away from it.
All it has to do is maintain the same altitude, and the ball doesn't fall away. It's at the same altitude.
And in doing so, in maintaining the same altitude on a ball, it would effectively be pointing its nose down to maintain level altitude on a ball.
You can fly with your nose straight at the same altitude all the way around the ball.
That's contradicting. That's a contradiction. If you're on a ball, you don't fly straight with your nose down. That's an impossibility. If you're flying straight, you're not flying in line with the ball.
It's so simple, P-Mars. Why don't you just try thinking about it?
All right, can I read a comment, because I posted on this earlier this week on my Facebook and got a lot of interaction with it. So I've got a buddy of mine who's in the Army, and so he's got some field experience with this. Can I read what he wrote? Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, here we go. The Earth's atmosphere is a confined space in which the gravitational forces and air density make flight using the forces of thrust and lift possible. Flight is not possible in space because there is no perceivable counter to thrust. On Earth, drag, weight, gravity allow for direction changes and elevation changes. If all you have is thrust, you cannot make an object fly directionally. With curved wings, airplanes, even supersonic ones, they create lift. Airplanes reduce this surface and thrust to airplanes reduce this surface and thrust to decrease elevation. To change directions, an airplane will decrease lift in one wing by shortening the curved space. That's why supersonic airplanes are often difficult to operate at low speeds, because they do not turn very well. At higher elevations, air becomes less dense. When air molecules thin out, less lift is created across the wings. Helicopters can only fly about 15,000 feet because there isn't enough lift being generated across the curved surfaces of their rotor blades. Once that happens, they drop like rocks. An SR-71 is basically a flying wing. The whole plane is designed to create lift. Once it hits thin air, it continues to create lift because they fly faster than most planes and because of the extensive amount of the curved surface on the airplane. Because there is no noticeable decrease in gravity, therefore, drag and weight will highly affect it. And with its size compared to the size of the Earth, which equally distributes gravitational pull toward the center of the Earth, the airplane has no need to fly down to keep within the atmosphere. If the airplane...
So what they're not pointing out is that according to that gravitational theory, it's also pulling from the center of mass of the plane, not from the nose. So there's not, like, the plane is, you have to change the plane's orientation manually. It's not just going to follow the curvature of the Earth due to gravity, because things always fall based on the point of their center of gravity, right? Which is not going to be at the nose of the plane. Then it would crash. So it doesn't make sense.
No, I understand what you're saying, Nummy. I think that they would just simply assume, again, that the center of gravity for the airplane is what it's like you've got that tangent between the center of the Earth and the airplane, as if there were a string from the center of the Earth to the center of the airplane. So they're simply going to tell you it just works. I understand what you're saying about the nose aspect. That makes sense. But I'm saying they're just going to go, that's just the way it works. Just like the moon is right where it's supposed to be, and rotates where it's supposed to be. That's just the way it works, man.
Yeah, they have no proof. Anyways, I want to make one other point just directed at P. Mars here, which is that, okay, if you look at the curve calculator or whatever, the horizon, if you, at 40,000 feet, the horizon is 250 miles away, and the amount of drop at that altitude, at that distance, is also 40,000 feet, just by an amazing coincidence, right? So basically, the horizon that the plane is looking at is double the altitude, or it's double the distance away. Like it's like looking at, like, if it was to fly at a tangent line to that horizon away at 250,000 feet, that would have become 80,000 feet. I mean, at 250 miles. Sorry, if it flew to where that horizon that's visible at 40,000 feet is 250 miles away, it would be at an altitude of 80,000 feet. So when it's flying straight and level with the horizon, that horizon is supposedly supposed to be at 80,000 feet above or below the plane, where the plane is pointed at that moment. So how could it not be pointed down? It's literally double the distance. I hope that really needs a picture to illustrate it properly, but hopefully that was clear enough.
Shout out to Lenny Harry. Be sure to hit the super chat.
We had an airplane that was, say, 25 miles long, and it was flying through the air. I guess it would also have to bend as well, like the ocean. So we could see a 25-mile long plane bent for that to work. Right or wrong?
Otherwise, it's like a teeter totter.
Yeah.
We talk perspective, Nathan.
I've been periodically putting your picture up, Ranty, but I don't know if you knew that I was presenting you.
All right, I wasn't too sure. But you remember off yesterday's when I showed you the compression zone with the boat, this Stena line?
Yeah.
There's a panelist that asked me, I think he's in now, that you know, he was untoo sure whether what was actually going on. And I also had a comment from somebody on one of my videos that said the same thing. Or it might have been on yours actually. That said, would I be able to prove what I was actually showing? Well, I look back at a video. This is 5369. It was done a couple of months ago at least, and I do elevation drops on this boat, and this is great because I'm actually at about 30 feet now when I'm videoing this Stena line boat that's at least 7 miles away. I'll have to get the exact distance, but it has a regular route where it heads off to the Isle of Man. So it'll be pretty easy to get that detail because it just passes the, where is it? If I scroll back to the start, you can actually see Peel Castle there. So, so if we're looking for a direct line of sight, I've got Peel Castle, the Stena line boat, so I can get its distance. And what happens is I zoom out and I'm on the railings here at the top of the steps. And then I go down the steps. So here's me going down the steps. I get to the bottom. So I'm going down the steps, get to the bottom. And then I film in again on this boat. So what I'll do is I'll pan across. Here we can see the boat now. Now then, wait for it to focus. Now, can you see? I don't know if you can see how much narrower it looks, but you can definitely see the orange underneath the Stena line, and you can make out the words "the Stena line" on it. So what I've done then, is I've taken a screenshot of this, and I've superimposed it onto here. So the bottom one was at elevation, 30 feet, all on the same video, same time. Went down the steps and filmed this, and I've put them to the exact same widths. But look at the difference in the compression of the top one. You can definitely see the orange underneath the Stena line. You can see the orange there. So we're seeing down to the hull. So we're definitely seeing down to the hull. You can see the compression on the ST, everything's being compressed so that it's holding its width, but the actual compression is actually there, visible in the one video.
Because you're getting surface diffraction effects when you get down that low.
Correct, spot on. Took the words out of my mouth. And somebody in the chat was saying, what causes this? Well, yeah, diffraction. Covered it a couple of times. I'm sure we'll cover it again.
So there we go. So I'll probably release this as a video, actually. I didn't realize it was such a good video at the time, but clearly it is. When you look back at all the stuff that we have, this is just more information. It helps explain why things do disappear and get compressed at the bottom. So again, I'm going to refer back to the wind turbines. If you're looking at the wind turbine blades from elevation and then you drop and it appears that they're getting smaller, well, they're getting compressed as well. The actual stems of the turbines are getting compressed. Essentially, if you look at this here, let's focus on this. Or should we focus on the orange lifeboat? Let's focus on the orange lifeboat and look how close it is to the waterline. Yeah, and then when we look at it from elevation, look at the distance that it is from the waterline. Obviously,
yeah, the point you want to emphasize is that you can see that orange line on the bottom, right?
Yes, you can, definitely.
That's what makes this a really great example, because we're not missing information from the appearance of the boat. It's just being shrunken down, squeezed. But the fact that you can see that orange line places it in space. So that's the whole point of this image, right?
Yeah.
And this boat is like perfectly painted to provide this kind of example. Like if that orange line wasn't painted on there, this wouldn't be nearly as telling.
Yeah, exactly. And to be fair, a lot of the boats in the different regions have all blue hulls or all black hulls. They don't have any details like this. This orange underneath is sensational for the stuff that we're doing here, because it proves we're seeing down to the hull.
This is this is actually really, really good, because it shows that it just shows that it has to be that compression squeezing due to diffraction. There's no other, you know what I mean? Because you can still see it. So we can account for all the parts of the boat here.
Yes, right. There's a good spectrum, a color spectrum contrast here with that orange or red or whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no denying that that orange line is still visible.
So what we're seeing is we are seeing all of the boat. And if we've got the width of it, but we haven't got the height anymore, it's being compressed. And at some point, you know, let's suppose this boat was twice as far away, it would be compressed to almost nothing, you know, and it would appear that the bottom of the hull has disappeared over the horizon, which it hasn't. It's just been compressed into a very, very, very small area. And any kind of very small waves in the foreground will just block that out.
Good job. I like that one.
I'll release this as a video later then.
Yeah, do that. Definitely make a video out of that. That's great. Because that's great just for reference material for people to use too, right? To explain that this isn't going over the horizon. It's just getting compressed, right? Proof. There's the line. So it's awesome.
Hey, Jose.
Jose.
Sorry. Hey, I just had to jump in for a second back because I kicked an unknown person in the house. So I can jump in for a minute. I don't even know who it was. It was unknown.
Your sound was totally jumbled.
Slow down a little. You're very excited. That's cool, but
you kicked the right person. It was Pete Mars.
Jose, can you just show us where you are? Can you maybe spin the camera around and just give us a show of where you are?
No, right now I'm in a freaking Walmart parking lot.
Oh, okay. Maybe not then.
I'm in a Walmart parking lot. I did 3 spots, 3 observations. It was awesome to be there. It feels good. I couldn't make it to the top of the Marriott Hotel. I tried to go there and replicate some observations. I could not make it there. Now I'm on my way. On my way in the freeway is going to be the Little Texas Bayou. It's like it's a long night, 10 miles, little
Jose.
Something. Yeah.
Jose, switch to your avatar. Your bandwidth is very good.
Yeah, just turn your camera off. It should improve things.
Yeah. It's one of Sally's observations is the Little Texas Bayou. I don't know how to explain it, but that one is going to be my last stop on my way to Texas. I still have 6 hours drive. I'm annoyed because my dog is car with me and they're driving me crazy. My wife is bearing with me, dealing with me with this. I told her this. So I did 2 short streams earlier. I'm gonna start uploading videos in maybe an hour or 2 when we just hit the highway, the long one. And I upload some videos, and I'll hope I can jump in the panel and present some tomorrow.
Cool. Did you see the curve like sound does?
You know what? I did not see it. I was looking through the viewfinder of the camera, trying to find that elusive curve, and inferior mirages and some mirroring effects. And it looks odd. One of the observations look a little sketchy with big pylons, but I could not tell until I upload it on YouTube and see it in the actual phone, zoom in, or see it in a big screen TV. So I'm probably not gonna make a judgment. I'm gonna upload that one, and I'm gonna see how the comments come in and how we're gonna figure it out tomorrow. But I did not perceive any curvature with my eyes or with the camera. Actually, with the phone, I took a little video and I can see more what appears to be a curve with the phone than with the camera. When the camera, you zoom out and you see, because it gets smaller with perspective, so you see the end of the bridge, it looks like it's going down. But then when you zoom in and all that refraction come in, it's not a curve, it's an optical effect that this is the one we're dealing with and figuring out.
Excellent. I've got your video playing from earlier now. Literally, as you were detailing it, I had exactly that on screen. Perfect timing.
Can't wait to see your footage, Jose. I'm really excited to see that.
Beautiful. I'm excited to do it. I'm happy. I do this for myself, and I'm happy to present it. And for everybody.
Awesome, man. Great work. Thanks so much for putting in the work, man.
Not a problem. I can't wait to get I took a bunch of little snippets and little short videos and doing the 360 and doing zoom in and out. I got a big boat in the longest distance. I took some landscape of some buildings around, in the other side. Just excited to go to go and put the videos and try to locate those buildings on the maps and see how distant they are and all that good stuff, you know.
Great work, man.
I appreciate it. I'll jump out again. You know, probably I'm gonna take off and the signal is probably gonna cut. So maybe somebody else can join. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Keep it going. Later on, I'll listen back to the 2 whole shows, but I'm being really busy. So keep it up, guys.
All right, peace, man.
Awesome.
Is that Dave? Hello.
Hello, Dave Shaw. How you doing?
Hello.
Hello. Good
Not too bad. You hear me okay?
Yeah, we hear you good.
Alrighty, carry on.
So Nathan, can you share my screen for a quick second?
Yeah, sure.
I just want to show something that I just think is interesting. Okay, here we go. Just to illustrate what I'd been saying before about why a plane would have to have its nose tipped down. You see my screen?
Yeah, you're on.
Right, so if we put in 40,000 feet as the viewer height, right? So that's like a high altitude for a commercial aircraft. That's like, you know, roughly as high as they usually go. So it's about 7.58 miles. Then in order to get zero hidden at the horizon, you have to put in 245.04 miles, right? But that means that the drop is 40,078 feet. So that means that the horizon when you're looking out the window at 40,000 feet altitude, and you're seeing the horizon 245 miles away, assuming that you have very clear conditions, that it's an additional 40,000 feet underneath you. So it's like 80,000 feet. You know what I'm saying? It's dropping an additional 40,000 feet. So in order for the plane to fly straight and level with the horizon so that when it ends up 250 miles away, that it's still flying straight and level, it would have to be pointing down to some degree, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's interesting. I just think it's interesting that it happens to be almost the exact at like when you put in 40,000 feet, like the altitude of a commercial aircraft, and that the horizon happens to be almost exactly the same number of feet below. So it's like almost perfectly double just by coincidence, but it's just interesting. So just putting that out to PMARS, that this is the reason why you would have to be pointing down, or to any of the globe earthers out there who think this is a ridiculous point, how could you not be pointed down if the horizon is an additional 40,000 feet below the aircraft at its present location? Anyways, that's all.
Cool. P's not here to actually give you a response. I'll just fill in for him. You're dumb. You don't know what you're talking about. There you go.
Yeah. Anyways, I just thought that's an interesting point just for people to know about, that coincidentally happens to be the case, that it's if you're at 40,000 feet of altitude, the horizon is 80,000 feet. A point at the horizon that has no that's still totally visible, that doesn't have any drop, that doesn't have any hidden, according to the Metabunk calculator anyways, that it's 80,000 feet. So it just doesn't make any sense. So PMARS, you're totally wrong that there's no good arguments for the flat earth. Like, try it. Try me on this one. It doesn't make sense. If the plane's flying flat and straight and level for the entire flight, that doesn't work on a ball. It just doesn't. It's an excellent argument in favor of the flat earth. It's an amazing argument. It's one of the simplest and strongest arguments that exist.
But he's admitted that he doesn't believe in evidence or doesn't care about it. He's admitted it how many times today?
Well, I'm directing, this is for everyone, right? I'm just saying, like, since he's saying that and he's claiming that, it just works out because of gravity or whatever, I'm like, you have to reconcile these facts. Like, this is according to their model. It's supposed to be double a point at the horizon 245.04 miles away is supposed to be double the distance down from what the plane's altitude. So how could it not be pointed down? It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. So, because I saw some people in the comments are saying that this argument isn't sensible, or this argument doesn't make, that, oh, flat earthers still think the plane has to be pointed down on a globe. Yeah, it does. Please explain. If someone can argue otherwise, please come on here and explain it. It's such a ridiculous, it's so stupid simple, this point, and completely supports the idea of a flat earth. It doesn't lend any credence to a globe earth whatsoever. If you somehow think that this is evidence for a globe earth, like, I'm sorry, you're retarded.
You only have to point up to get off the ground, but then once you're up at everything else just takes over and keeps you around the globe. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's ridiculous just in geometric terms, though. Like I'm saying, exactly. Like there's a tangent. This was the original thing that got my attention in terms of this whole argument about
someone
the flat
Adam,
right? Like
someone
what drew me into it.
Chat. No, hold on. Someone kick Adam. It's fake Adam in the back chat. You there, Arwin?
Someone already got him.
Oh, brilliant.
Well, the other thing I think we all need to remember, when you're in an airplane at 36,000 feet, it's illogical to assume that that's a constant. I mean, you're passing over hills and mountains, so it's a general a generalization. I mean, you're still flying over things, and the plane doesn't adjust to go up because there's a mountain range. 36,000 feet, you're clearing everything that's on Earth.
Yeah.
So, but it makes no sense that you would not have to stick to the ball, to be relatively, kind of in this going over the hump or down the hump, whichever way you look at it. It's ludicrous.
It's totally ludicrous. And in any case, it's the whole way that planes fly straight and level. And when you look at the geometry of where the horizon should be, it does not support a globe model whatsoever. No. It only supports a flat model. Or a flat model, whatever, a flat Earth.
It is really Adam.
It is me. It is me, guys. Sorry.
It's okay. Good to have you.
Hey, Adam.
It's only a quick jumping, guys. I'm off tomorrow. I've heard you chatting about this aeroplane stuff. It's a presentation I did, followed on from Paul on the planes when we were chatting with the accelerometer and angle of pitch and flight over there. I'm off tomorrow, Nathan. So you guys are about, I'll try and jump in. It's about a 20-minute presentation with slides and stuff that will just explain what you guys are doing and kind of demonstrate, but also prove that they're not angling downwards. I don't know if you...
Are you saying that's something you can do now? You broke up a little bit.
No, I'm at work. I'm at work now, but I was just saying I've got a presentation, so I'll try and drop in tomorrow in one of the shows tomorrow afternoon, and I'll have my PC at home there, then, and I'll show you the slideshow. It's what I did it. Awesome. Must be about turn of the year I did it on IRM. So
yeah, well, maybe it's time that we bring this out again, right? Because this is a great argument, and yeah, it's kind of flat Earth 101, but yeah, bring it by, man. It'd be great.
I was sat on. I always, when you're on a plane, I've got two boys and a wife, so they sit together, and I'll pay for a bit of extra leg room. And this time on the flight over to Italy, I was actually sat next to one of the junior pilots. So I opened up my phone with that on, and I kept noticing he was looking at the slideshow. So I went through it with him, and he says, "You've got me there. It's a really good point, and I don't have an answer. But I'll tell you now, we don't nose down." So, yeah, I'll try and drop in tomorrow, Nathan, and if you can spare me 20 minutes, I'll go through the presentation, and it kind of shows it with, because what I did was I filmed the spirit level for the flight. So to ascertain if there was any correction at any points using the accelerometer. Now, it's not accurate, but it is sufficiently accurate to say whether or not any reorientation to the center of the mass occurs.
Or to put it another way, if it's nosing down.
Yeah.
Right. So Rumpus says it's not nosing down, it's just constantly adjusting to maintain level flight. Well, that's the same thing, Rumpus. The adjustment
Or
that it's
well,
making,
ask
that it
him.
have to be making would be nosing down. What do you think? It's nosing up to make the adjustment so that it stays on the tangent line with its present location?
Yeah, what adjustments? Ask him what adjustments are being made.
Right.
Is
That's
the gravity
what
doing it, or is the pilot, the machine, doing it? And what
Well, no,
exact?
Yeah, but it's not even that, Eric. It's not even that. It's just if he were here and he was said there is an adjustment being made, we say, what is it? What's the adjustment? Can you describe it? Can you show us what it is?
It's just adjusting.
Yeah, it's just it's the magic. It's
Well,
the
it has
magic.
to be because it has to be a globe, right? Like this is their thinking. Like we know it's a globe, so it must be adjusting. It's a presuppositional argument, right? There's no evidence. The evidence is that, like I showed on the calculator, that the horizon, what the visible horizon at 245 miles away, if assuming very clear conditions, is an additional 40,000 feet below the plane. So when they fly level with the horizon, it's going to have to be pointed down because in the distance at the horizon, a point on that horizon is going to be double the distance below where the plane is. So it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, Nami, I think you've done a really good job explaining what you're saying, and it's crystal clear. The thing that I constantly am confronted with, and I think we all are when we do this, is that, and I think Eric made this point earlier, or someone did. We are talking two different languages, and as long as you are not speaking my language, you're not going to understand and follow what I'm saying. So if a person is going to maintain a heliocentric model in their mind, the communication is not going to work. It's not going to, they're going to continue to argue or speak in those terms consistently. So, I mean, and we can't bridge that gap. It's that.
Well, it's possible just by arguing. Like I've convinced a few people, or at least got them scratching their heads. Like, I mean, I have a couple of friends who I've brought over to the dark side of flat Earth, and I found that this type of argumentation about the geometry of flights and also about the lack of Coriolis effect are very good starting points, because you can find some common ground with people, right? Like we can easily agree on the idea of, spherical geometry and tangent lines. Like we have that in common with anybody.
Right. But what's interesting, and what's interesting about that though is the level of on the spectrum of what we're talking about. So I would say in one certain way, the two friends that you're talking about had something in their psychology that gave them the ability to see what you were saying, whereas you've got someone else who's farther removed, where they are not, because you could have had two other people in that same conversation that would have had a stronger adverse reaction to where they just completely reject what you're saying, but your two friends are like, yeah, and we have no control over that.
No, that's true, but we have to try, right? I mean, that's
sure. Yeah, you bet.
And you'll reach, like, the thing is, you will reach certain people. There's just a certain percentage of people who can be reasoned with on this topic, right? Like, and the idea is that we just have to reach them, because I think that a lot of people hear about flat Earth kind of peripherally, and they're like, I mean, I felt this way for like 2 years. Like, YouTube was constantly telling me that I needed to research flat Earth, and I was constantly saying, no, I'm not even going to waste 5 seconds on that, right? And then finally I was like, all right, I guess, fine. You really want me to watch some flat Earth videos? I guess I will. I was bored one night, right? And but for some, I can just say from my own experience that some people are stubborn because it just, on its face, it just seems so ridiculous when you've had a lifetime of indoctrination of the globe, right? That people don't, but you need somebody to break it down for you sometimes, right? You need to get someone in a corner of, like, where they have to make a decision. They have to make a decision. Like, I think the rotation of the Earth and flights as well. So it's like, you have to put someone in where they have to take a stance on a specific basic issue. And then that's where the logic process will really start to take shape in a person's mind, right? Where they're going to have to decide that they're going to believe something that's contradictory or not.
But there's so many things tied into flat Earth. Like if you're a parent and your kids are in the education system and you accept flat Earth, now what do I do? You know what I mean?
Well, there's lots of things in the education system that are not agreeable, right? I mean, I'm not a parent, so I don't necessarily relate to that as much, but like, I can imagine it. But it's just like, you know, I think people don't tend to just automatically believe everything they learn in school. I mean, I don't know.
I don't know if they believe it, but they're gonna go out through this thing called society and pretend they do for the likability factor.
Sure. Well, you're gonna have to be educated about, you know, what's
you gotta remember Jordan Peterson. I don't know, probably, you know, he talks about the whole agreeability factor amongst people, and people are very obsessed with just, you know, fitting in and you know. So
we all are. It's part of human psychology that we require.
I've never been that way. I've always been an asshole.
Well, on some level, you do need somebody, right? Like,
yeah,
I'm sure.
I know, to a degree, but you got to understand, most people, this is why most people, they can tell you the crap out of, you know, their favorite ball team stats and, you know, whatever these cards. I mean, that's what they know.
Yeah, well, I mean, I have to blend in too, man. Like, I don't get into this stuff at all in my professional life. I just can't. I can't do that, right? It's not happening. But like where I work, I can't start flat Earth arguments. Not gonna fly. You know what I'm saying?
Especially if you're an employee. I've spent most of my life being a contractor, so I can get away with a lot of belligerence. Put it that way.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, like, I understand where people are coming from with that, but you know, luckily we have the internet in our private life and things like that, and we can talk. I mean, the way I approach trying to talk about flat Earth with people is that if I think there's actually a chance that they might be able to understand it, then I'll talk to them about it. I'm not going to like beat my head against the wall of somebody who's just going to not bother to understand it or just try to belittle it or something, right? Like, I'm not going to like die on that hill. And I just do it if I think it's going to be useful for somebody.
Yeah. And we shouldn't get mad at people when they say, I just don't care. What does it matter? Because there is some truth in that. When people are so obsessed with a mortgage payment and the kids, I mean, really, I mean, they are kind of correct in it. Like, I don't care.
Well, yeah. And who are we to judge what people care about ultimately, right?
Yeah. I mean, I see a lot of people go ballistic, and part of me kind of feels that way. Like, what do you mean you don't care about truth? You don't like, and honestly, a lot of people just don't have the time and energy to care about it. That's the reality.
It's true. Or no, that they really have like super stressful things going on. Like, I know people who have like who are in a lot of debt and who have 2 kids. And out of sensitivity to their life, I'm not going to tear open this can of worms. Like maybe in 10 years, you know what I mean? When they got their, and I'm like, I know that they don't need to have their entire paradigm smashed into oblivion when they're like suffering immense stress from other sources in their life.
I have a classic quote from an old family member that back when I was talking about 9/11 way back in the days, one of my aunts said, well, I don't know what I would do if Eric was right. I wouldn't be able to go to work the next day. Bingo. You know, I mean, that's the mindset. Like, what would I do? I wouldn't be able to function. That's how they have a lot of people locked up.
Yeah.
I couldn't go to work the next day. Like, that's a bad thing.
Yeah. Yeah, life is stressful for a lot of people. Like, I know people who are really struggling with a lot of stuff, for sure. Like, you know, they just don't have a spare moment in their life.
Yeah.
And I don't think it would be a good place to start with something like this if you didn't have a spare moment in your life, you know?
No, because flat Earth really is the umbrella of the whole scam in many ways.
Yeah, well, Flat Earth didn't seem to care with me. They just came into my life, didn't ask any questions.
Yeah, well, everybody's got their own little story. It's interesting. I love hearing about how people got into flat Earth. It's one of my favorite stories, my favorite kind of story.
I was in within 1 minute. I was done.
Yeah.
I heard I had no exposure previous. It came out of the blue, and within 1 minute, I was just dumbfounded.
Yeah, I kind of was similar for me. I mean, like I say, it was kind of beating down my door on the internet, and I was like, no, don't bother me with that. And then when I find, like, after watching, 6 hours of videos one night, I mean, I got drawn in after the first one. A couple weeks later, I was like, oh Lord. I already knew NASA was totally fake, so I was kind of primed.
Yeah, that's a big step. If you believed in that moon landing stuff and that, I mean, that's.
Yeah, no, I knew NASA was fake because I work in television, and so I didn't regard that. That wasn't like a major hurdle for me.
Me
right?
too.
Like,
I mean, I was back in the early '90s. I went through all the photos and all the video, and I'm like, that's a soundstage. I've worked in TV and film. I know what a soundstage looks like. It's so evident.
Yeah, well, I also have other people who work in film. Like I was talking to this guy who's like a really successful director of photography in Toronto, and we were watching some I think I put on the Skylab footage, and he just burst out laughing so hard. And I was like, "It's fake, isn't it?" And he was like, "No comment." He just didn't want it. He didn't want it, but he was laughing so hard.
You look at the still photographs, and you can clearly see the delimitation point of the ground set, the stage, and then the backdrop painting or photograph.
Yeah, and this is like a guy who shot some like major Hollywood features and stuff, right? Like this is a guy who totally knows every trick in the book in terms of making, creating imagery and creating illusions.
Yep.
So I've actually gone to a lot of people in the film industry, not from a flat Earth perspective, but just to get their opinion on some NASA stuff. And I get people they all know, but a lot of those people in that they don't want to get involved. Like they have their own stuff going on, especially I think especially if people have really successful careers.
Yeah. Why would they want to jeopardize that?
Well, it gets a lot more political when you're really successful. Like all your opinions matter way more.
Yep. A friend of mine, he's a Dutch guy living in Shanghai, and he's an architect, and he tried working for this really big worldwide American company, and he's very open-minded. I mean, but there was one guy that's high up in the organization. He's totally flaming gay, and he presented this design, and my friend said it looks quite gay. So this American company, they fired him because, what was it? You don't fit into the culture. He's bullheaded and but I mean, why did they interpret that as being necessarily a derogatory? It looks gay.
Yeah, I don't know. That's just this ultra mega sensitivity that has, I don't know. It's just corporate culture these days, right?
Yeah. You got to walk on eggshells. You can't. I mean, you're going to offend anybody and everybody.
Yeah. Well, in the film industry, or in major industries, you can't be a conspiracy theorist because then it's going to define you. You know what I mean? That's going to become that's what everyone's going to think of you. So when they think of your name, they're going to think of that. And if you're trying to have a successful career, say, being a cinematographer, you don't want that to be the first thing that people think of when they say your name, right?
And with that, I'm going to say first and foremost a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and hopefully sharing this debate, and of course a massive thank you to all of the debating panel for making this debate possible. If you hated the show, then you know exactly what to do, but if you like the show, maybe consider sharing it with a friend or subscribing if you have not done so already. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!